everyone, welcome back. Do hope you've had a fantastic week. I certainly have. And I would just like to say thank you to one of my subscribers. She picked up that I had said we needed an anvil in the material section of the video, and that I had said it in the actual tutorial, when in fact what we need is an awl. This is what it is. Very, very sharp needle-like. I don't know what you would call this, but they use this for leather work to punch holes. And it's just much easier than trying to punch it with a needle, because obviously you can grip the handle quite nicely. So I did rectify it, and I'm just hoping that you all pick that up and you did manage to get yourself one. So these are the materials that we need. Obviously we need the leaves of our sketchbook that we've put together. We need a ruler, a pencil. We need the bone for flattening out and making sure that the surfaces are all nice and flat, the corners and everything. We need our clamps so that we can keep our leaves together, our big brush for our glue, and we need our craft knife to be able to cut our board, which is what I have here. And it's quite a thick mount board. I don't generally use this thickness on this sort of a sketchbook. However, it's what I have left over, and it is what I'm going to be using. It's an old piece of mount board. In fact, I think it's from my mom's stuff, which means it's quite old. So let's start. We need to measure the back of the leaves that make up our sketchbook. So we put together folded A3 pieces of sketch paper, and it didn't matter what you use, Fabriano, or it could have been Kansan, or it could have been a mixture of whatever you prefer, and preferably nothing less than 160 gram. So if we line up the back of the leaves, which is what I'm doing here, and I'm trying to do it in a way so that you can obviously all see. It's very important that you see. I know I've done this quite a few times before. Make sure that you have a piece of quite stiff card that you can measure out a fair sort of distance. I like to use 1.5 centimeters to start with. So I've generally got 1.5 centimeters from the edge of my book to the first hole. And then I do increments of 2 centimeters thereafter. So it's very important that your holes end up with the waxed thread coming out at the end of it. So if you're going into the leaf here, so you're going in with the needle, you're going out, you're going in, 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 out, in, out, in, out. It's got to go out here so that you can go back in on the next set of leaves. And then the same thing would obviously apply here. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So you've always got to end up going in on the one where you finished coming out of on the leaf, and the other side, the opposite. I hope that makes sense, but it should all start coming together once we start putting this together. So basically what I do is I have measured this, and as I said, I've got 1.5 centimeters on either end, 1.5, and then I have increments of 2 centimeters in between. And it ends with 1.5, and in between every single one of these are each 2 centimeters. Now you can make these slightly wider, but again make sure that where you go in to start your leaf, you end up coming out at the very, very last hole to be able to go in on the second set of leaves that you are putting together. I've made a mistake where I've ended up coming in and then ending up with the needle in the middle of the leaves and having to redo all the holes all over again. So I'm going to take my board off of here because we now want to mark these leaves, and you need to make absolutely sure that they are properly lined up, the back, and that your piece of card that you would have measured out is perfectly lined up at the back as well. And basically what we are doing is we are marking it. Try and get overhead. Try and make sure that you are looking at it from directly above. And all that we are doing is we are marking it at those intervals with the pencil. Okay, so I've marked my first set of leaves, and now I am purely going to run that, make absolutely sure that it is square, and I am now going to run that across the back. In fact, what one can do is clamp it so that it doesn't move. It just helps, makes it a whole lot easier. And we literally run the pencil. Wow, I'm having a hard time today with this technology stuff. So basically, we are marking as much as we possibly can in a straight line. Across the back of the spine, so the leaves where they have been folded in half. There we go. Last one done. Right, so I think that they are nicely marked. Now we are going to take them one at a time, flip them open. You can almost bend it back to make sure that it does line up. And clamp it so that it doesn't move. Once you've got it, once you have it lined up, clamp it. And this is where you take your awl. Please be very, very careful because this is incredibly sharp, and we push it through. And we repeat it with the next set of leaves. Apologies, my hand is in the way. So that's the first one done, and this is a fairly easy sketchbook to get put together because it isn't very thick. I'll put that to one side. We'll take the next one. Just make sure that it is properly lined up. And we can open it. Just push it back so that it lines up properly, and then clamp it on either side. Don't clamp it too close together because you can't get your awl through the hole. And let's start again. I'm going to turn it around so that my hand isn't in the way of showing you what I'm doing. So you will be doing this on however many sets of leaves you have. I'm going to turn the video off, the tutorial off, and continue with mine, and then I shall start recording again when I start the stitching. Right, so I have mine all lined up. You can see that they're fairly accurate. I'm very, very happy with that. And I will now show you how to measure the amount of thread that you need. So as I said to you before, you can use dental floss. I'm not very keen on it because I just find that it is incredibly sharp, if you kind of know what I mean. Obviously it's to go in between teeth, so it's a flat thread, whereas this is a waxed round thread, and I just find that it's much easier to use. So I have four leaves, 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves here. If you have more than 4 or less than 4, make sure that you measure it in the way I'm going to show you now. For each of these you need a length. So I've got 1 length, 2 lengths, 3 lengths, 4 lengths, and make sure that you have a bit of a tail on the end. So if you have 5 lengths or more, you need to have an extra length for each of these leaves. So if you've got 5, you need 5 lengths. If you've got 6, obviously you need 6, and so on and so forth. Now we are going to thread our needle, and I showed you that the needle that I like to use, it's a fairly thin one. Just want to get this off of here. So we're going to thread this through. And then take the needle and push it through the thread in the middle of it and pull it through the needle like that, so that it stays fuss below the needle and doesn't come through every single time. Right, now we're going to start the stitching. So we're going to take it through the first leaf. You don't really need to clamp at this stage because it isn't, you know, it's not that sort of difficult to hold. So we pull it through, make sure you pull it through all the way and make sure that you leave a little tail at the end. On the other side, push it through and pull it. Keep it just nice and tight, but not too tight. Okay, then we're going to stitch it here again. Stitch it through. Pull it through again. Watch that it doesn't get all tangled up into anything. And just pull it taut. At this stage, you're not really looking for very, very tight stitching because you have a tail that is loose at the end. So we can only really secure that once we get to the other end of the leaf, once we've attached the other end of the leaf to it. And we just keep on going. Now do make sure that you go through the center of your leaves. Whoops, knocking over my glue. I can't believe that we're at this stage already of this tutorial. It's just so exciting that this is what we are doing, because you can do this for yourself. I mean, once you've got this tutorial, and you've made your first one. The first one is always the most difficult, obviously, as with anything. But once you've made one, honestly, it's so easy for you to make many, many more. And keep your work all nicely displayed in a sketchbook that you've not only drawn yourself, but you've also made. And there are other complicated sketchbooks. I have made them. They're absolutely stunning. Much with proper spines and proper covers and everything. However, it's a bit difficult to show you how to do that. But I can tell you that they do have very, very good ones on Domestika. So I'll put that into the write-up, you know, on the tutorial once I have uploaded. Now, this is where we start getting into the tricky part, because now we need to get this to line up, and also you want it to be fairly stable in your hand. So this is where you need to clamp. So line it up and clamp it just to keep it more stable for your own benefit, because this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky in terms of, whoopsie daisy, I can't seem to get this through here, in terms of lining up the holes. Gosh, why am I struggling here on this one? Let me just see what's going on. Maybe I didn't actually make the hole. Nope, it is there. Okay, so that's the other thing. You've just seen now how I have struggled to get through that hole. Simply take your awl and pierce it again, just to help make your life easier. Right, so this is basically, whoops, okay, so I have, okay, so we now take it through this stitching at the back here. Make sure you take it through that stitching before you go into the next hole. It's very important that you attach both the leaves together with that stitching. Going back through inside, coming out the other side. And again, make sure that you go, put your needle under. And now I'm just attaching everything to the spine and pull it through. You can clearly see there that it is attached. It's attached the two leaves together. Push that through. Gosh, look at this. It's the thing with this twine, is that when it starts to get shorter and shorter on the roll, it really does start to sort of get curly. Right, so now you can see that they are attached perfectly together there. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a neat stitching. And again, so you go under and pull it through. Take it through the whole, the leaf. So just do this slowly. There's no rush. And as I said to you before, this does take a bit of practice. It's not something that the first one I made I kind of did perfectly, especially with the lining up of the holes and getting my stitching nice and neat. Take it back through. So we'll make sure that this is all tight in a minute. As soon as we get to the end, I will show you how we secure each one of these, because remember, it isn't secure yet. Either end is not secure yet. So it will feel a little bit loose, and it is in fact a little bit loose. Going back in. There we go. Yes, we are securing it. What have I done here? Gosh, can we turn this off? Okay, so I've secured it there, and now I'm taking it through. Okay, we have it, and now we take it back through again. Now remember that this is very, very loose because we have that tail there, which is fine. We'll show you in a minute how we're going to secure that. We take it through here. Make sure that that is nice and secure. And now we are at the end of our second sheet. Sorry guys, but if you are doing this with me, then you will also be struggling a little bit here where we have the clamp. So I'm just going to take that off just so that I can get the needle through. Right, so this is a bit of a crucial place here. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take this needle and we're going to make sure that everything is secure and as tight as we can get it without damaging or breaking any of the holes. So that one there can be secure. And this one here can definitely be secure. Okay, I'm not happy with that. So if you have a look here, you can see that I have a gap here, which I'm not really enjoying. So I just want to make sure that I pull that tighter on the inside. And that should, there we go. Pulling it all tighter. Just open up your book and do what I am doing just to make sure that it is nice and secure. And now we can pull that through. So that is a lot better. Now we tie the tail. The end here. It's as simple as that. There we go. It's looking pretty good, I think. And now we're going to attach the next lot to it. Now, I added a set of leaves, so I'm going to just want to have a look at your book and make sure that it goes in order of what we did. Here we go. So that must go like that, right? And make sure that you have it lined up again. Put your clamp in. So you're clamping it, you're clamping the two that you've done onto the third set of leaves and leaving it open so that you can obviously get inside there. There we go. Right, so we simply, right, so I'm terribly sorry to tell you all this, but my iPhone is full and I did not realize it, so I was recording merrily away. I did not realize that I was actually recording nothing. So here I am on my 4th leaf, and I'm going to show you how you take the thread through the previous leaves that you have sewn together. Make sure it's nice and tight. You can see that that is very, very neat, very, very tidy, and most importantly of all, that it is very, very skew. So what I want to say to you is that when you put your needle back through and you're at the stage where you have all your leaves and you're sewing them all together like I am, here it does become a bit cumbersome, and you can lose your holes, especially when you're putting it through the other side, because you can't really see what you are doing. So just make sure that you do it in such a way that you are comfortable and that you do get your needle through into the center of the leaf. Okay, so here we are going, and it's really working out so well. Your sketchbook should be nice and tight as well, like mine is. And secure. Pull it through, take it back through. We're almost at the end of this. The angle I'm trying to do it at so that in the video it's a bit awkward, but here we are, last hole, and we can tie that all together. So there we go. We have, it has squished out a little bit, but that's fine because we can pull it all back together and in line once we take the clamps off. But there you can see that we have a really nice, secure, neat back spine. And now what we do is we simply tie this tail and that together. Let's open it and make sure that we are happy with how, you know, the tension of the actual stitching on the inside. So we can tighten that a bit more, and we simply tie the tail as we did in the first place. It's just a knot, that's all it is. There we go. And now we can cut that off. Don't cut it too short because we're going to glue it down. There we go. Take our clamp off. Move our needle out of the way, all the bits and pieces. And now we can see that we have a really neat, very, very simple sketchbook. Now what you need to do is you need to line it up because sometimes the stitching does pull it out slightly. So try and pull it as straight and neat as you can together. You can also bash it down on its face on the table and clamp it. Now this is where we need our bits of paper that I said to you to have, because the clamps can in fact damage the paper. You can see that I've got damage here already, and we simply fold that over and we put the clamp on top of it so that there is no damage to your paper. Don't take it to the edge because we're going to glue this. So there we have it, lined up. I'm going to put a piece of paper underneath mine because I don't want to get glue onto my healing mat. I'm going to put this on the end of my awl so I don't stab myself later on. And now we are going to glue this. So I'm going to elevate this ever so slightly because I'm working at an angle so that you can see what I'm doing. I'll give my arm across. Just going to lift this up. This might actually be a bit better. Right, there we go. So I'm just lifting this up so that you can see this. You do not need to do, but I want you to be able to see what I am doing. So basically, I have this wood glue. So I have this wood glue, which is the one that I suggested that you get, alkaline fast set. I have my paintbrush, and I have literally put it off into a bucky so that it's easier than trying to get it out of the nozzle of the actual bottle. And we are simply going to run this along the edge of the stitching, and we run a very, very fine layer of glue onto the actual parts of the sketchbook that we have stitched. Be very, very careful. Don't let it run off into the actual book itself. Try to keep it just to the stitching. This needs to be done. You need to let it dry. That will probably take about half an hour. It doesn't take long at all. Say an hour, and repeat the process. So you just want to make sure that this is and secure. And when we get to the end here, we basically blob the glue on here just to make sure that the knots have quite a bit of glue on it, and try and glue that tail into the spine of the book, both of them. You do sometimes need to put your finger there to keep it, just until the glue has hardened slightly. Try twisting them together. My apologies everyone for having my big fat fingers in front of it. And there. Just get that secure. But the most important thing is that you secure those knots with glue. Hold the brush down onto it just until it sits in place. So this tail here we can cut off. I did cut it a bit longer than what it needed to be. Just want to coax it into place. This is probably the hardest part of this whole process. Make sure it stays there. That one is not having it. It's deciding to do a whole thing on its own. But you can basically just go over this a couple of times and then just leave it to dry. And all that this is just doing is just securing and making sure that it all stays in place. Come on. Oh, we've got lovely laughter outside. There's children downstairs. They are just so gorgeous. So nice to have the happiness of kiddies. Ah, that one's just not going to stay in place. Anyway, everybody, you do know what I mean. And this is just going to take a bit of coaxing. So I'm just going to hold my finger on it. My finger is now well and truly in the way. And you need to just let this dry. As I said, do it again in about half an hour, and but make sure you wash your brush off. Don't let your glue dry on your brush, because then that will be a hell of a problem trying to get that out. You can get it out. I mean, it's not something that is that difficult to get out of your brush, but you really don't want that to happen. Okay, that one is staying and the other one is just not going to stay there. See if I can convince it. Otherwise, I'm going to put some on the back of it. See if I can get it. But now my fingers are becoming really sticky. And when this starts happening, one really needs to stop, because this is when you start really pulling it apart rather than gluing it, because everything sticks to your sticky fingers. Okay, I think it has worked. Okay, everybody, until tomorrow or the next day, we shall put the cover on. Have an awesome evening. Bye.